Hey everybody, welcome back. So in this video, I am going to be putting a wideband O2 sensor on my old Jeep CJ-7 so I can speed the process of getting it tuned and working right and just kind of making my life easier in that regard. And I know you guys, you're all going to get down there in the comment section and say, learn to read the spark plugs, learn to smell the exhaust and taste the oil. Look, you people who type that stuff in. I'm 66 years old. I've been working on motorcycles and cars since I was 8 or 9. I owned my first car when I was 13. So dispense with all that, okay? I know how to do all that. But as the years I have left on this planet dwindle, I don't want to spend it licking dipsticks and smelling exhaust pipes, although it might wind up ending smelling an exhaust pipe, but that's morbid. We're not going to go there. So I bought an AEM wideband sensor. This is the later version of it. I forget it. We'll look at it. The X series. We'll look at it and we'll make sure which one it is. In fact, we can just look at the label on it. It says on it someplace, right? Oh, there it is. It's a 30-0300 gauge kit. Comes with supposed to come with a Bosch O2 sensor. These cost a couple $100. I think I paid $189 for this one on Amazon. I'll put a link to it below. I just want to let you know, I'm no novice at putting O2 sensors in either. I've done it multiple times over the years. In fact, my first time I ever did it was on this old monstrosity Chevy, two-cylinder Chevy motorcycle. You can see the O2 sensor I put in down there. I probably did that 20 years ago to help me get it tuned. And here is the narrow band gauge that I put on it then. I don't think there were, if there were wideband gauges back then, I don't remember. But anyway, that worked out really well on that. It let me get it better than in the ballpark. So with all that being said, let's get this out of the box and let's see what we all get with it. Okay, let's get this out of the box and have a look at it. I have not opened it yet, so you're going to be going right along on that ride with me. So right in the beginning, we see AEM performance gauges. There is the gauge. How do we get it out of there? Really don't want to rip the box to shreds, although it may make me. AEM, why you got to be like this? Why you got to make people tear their shit up to get it out of the box? Maybe I'm opening the wrong side. Let's open the other side. There we go. Maybe that's the correct one to open. There is an AEM sticker. Here is the Welding bung and some wire connectors. And yes, I'm going to be welding the bung in. They do make strap-on bungs. And if, I'm not judging. If strap-ons are your thing, then you should go get a strap-on. Here is the O2 sensor. This is supposed to be a Bosch O2 sensor. Unless it says Bosch on it, I'm not sure how I would tell. Oh look, it does say Bosch on it right there. Okay, not that somebody couldn't copy that, but here is our instruction set. And here is our wiring. We have and I have been told that most of this wiring isn't necessary. All the gauge really needs is positive and negative for power, and then the plug-in from the O2. The rest is for data logging and things like that. Now maybe can we get that out of there? Oh yeah, look, this was the correct way to remove it. God dang it. Now, why you gotta be like this? You make me fucking destroy the packaging to get it out. I hate that. Don't be like that. Alright, so here's our actual gauge itself. We have a mode button and a select button, and it is very, very shallow. So that's kind of nice. I haven't really made up my mind whether I want to mount this solidly or not. But, permanent mounted in the instrument panel of the Jeep. I might, but for now, I think I'm just going to make it temporary, and I'll probably 3D print some kind of, cowl for it, or module, or what do they call it, a pod for it, that will just go someplace where I can easily remove it if I want. So here's all the pieces of it. Let's get to work. obviously the first thing we're going to do is we're going to weld the bung in. And or you can go get your strap on, but let's do that first. So a couple things worthy to take a look at before I get started at this. And one is this bung. The instructions say it's a mild steel bung, but here's a magnet. I mean, that's a good strong magnet, and that's stainless steel, not mild steel. So first off, mild stainless steel bung, not mild steel. Secondly, I thought it might be fun. Oh, another thing about the bung is the size. I was hoping that this was just going to be some ordinary size, you know, 3/4 of an inch, 20 millimeters, something along those lines. But no, it is the hole I'm going to have to drill is 22.5 millimeters. If I go to 24.5 or a little more, this is just going to fall completely in. 22.5 millimeters? I don't know what to make of that. None of my step drills, and I've got like 6 step drills, none of them have a step on them that's going to be appropriate. One is going to be too small for it to go in. The next step up is going to let the whole thing drop in. So that might be fun to deal with. But I also thought it might be fun to set this thing up on a bench here. I've got it all plugged in and just see if it turns on and works. Because I've had this about a month now. So let's see if I can figure out how to get this so we can see it on the camera. And if it turns on and works, I have a 11.1, they're actually about 11.6 or 7 LiPo battery, 3S LiPo battery we can use to power it. I've got it all plugged in. All I should do is need to apply power and hot to here, and we should see if this works. So there is my ground. Here is my power. See if I can hold these on with one hand while I hold the gauge up with the other. Heat, it says. I don't know, are you supposed to do this or not? I don't know. I'm doing it. I can't see any difference here than it would be if it was in the car. I still have the plastic cap on the O2 sensor because I don't want to touch the end of it. But I think it named the O2 sensor there at the beginning. Maybe we'll power it down. So there it is. It came up okay. It's obviously not going to read anything, I don't think. It's off the scale of no fuel in the O2. I want to see what it said when it first powered up again. Any way that I can show you that? Let's try it. Let's power it off. Let's power it back on. Yeah, LS 4.9, that's the name of the sensor. And then the heat. Okay, well, looks like it's going to work. All right, so let's talk about putting this bung into this pipe. I'm going to try and do this without pulling the pipe because I'm lazy. And the only way I'm going to get that pipe out of there is to cut it. And I've already cut that pipe twice. And I really do not want to cut it again if I can help it. It's still a solid piece of pipe. It's got no issues. So what I'm going to do, and this is going to be a 7/8 inch hole. This is actually a little bit bigger than 7/8. I think it's supposed to be 7/8, but it's like 22.6 millimeters. And I think that's closer to 15/16 and 7/8, but my step drill goes from 7/8 to 1 inch, and 1 inch is bigger than the whole thing. So that'll fall through, and that seems like just a bad idea to me. So I'm trying to see the phone screen here, and I can't. So where I'm thinking about putting this, or I'd like to put it, is I can't get my arm down in there very easily. I stuck my arm in a bad spot, trying to keep it away from the camera. Where I'm thinking is right about there, and at kind of this angle. That would give me easy access to weld all the way around, I believe, and give me room to get a drill in there, you know, without having to go buy an angle drill, which I don't have one. Okay, I got a pilot hole in it. I found a nice short bit to make a pilot hole. I got the drill down in there, and that was really easy. I have this gigantus step drill. This is the only, I've got like 6 different step drills, and this is the only one I have that goes above 3/4 of an inch. And so I put a mark on the 1 inch spot to say, don't go there. So I'm hoping I'll be able to stop before I make it so big the bung just falls through into the pipe, because that would seriously piss me off. I have my hole drilled, and I was right. I drilled it out to 7/8, and that bung still will not sit in there. I'm not going to risk going to 1 inch and making it so big it falls through. So, since I have a mini lathe, let's use it. I'm just going to cut a little bit off of that so it fits in. If I didn't have this, I could do the same thing with a file, but you know what? I have this, so I'm going to use it. I have it fitted in there, setting in nice and flush. I took a hammer and I dented that area in just a little bit, so it sat nice and flat. Probably didn't really need to do that, but it was rocking around a bit and I didn't like that. So I had to whack it pretty hard to get it flat, so that pipe is still very, very solid. So all we gotta do now is tack it and weld it, and we'll be done with this part of the job. I've got my favorite little 110 volt welder, the Vevor MiG 130. I bought this like, what was it, 3-4 years ago? I bought it when I was doing the floorboard repair on this vehicle, and my old welder is just a MIG welder. It's not flux core, and you can't really turn it into a flux core welder because you can't reverse the polarity. And I was having so much problems welding out here in the wind that I got ticked off, and I ordered this welder, and it's been my favorite little 110 welder ever since. Now I do have the brand new Vevor flux core welder, 110 volt only welder, and but I just got it a couple days ago, and I don't trust it enough to do this, so I'm going to be using my favorite, and this is just going to be a series of hot tack welds. I'm not going to try and run a much more than, you know, a double wide tack weld in any one spot. I have a piece of brass fitting into my bung, just kind of protect the threads and absorb the heat, and I'm going to do this thing. Got that welded in there. That is, to say the least, not the best welding job I've ever done. Is it the worst? Unfortunately, it's probably not the worst welding job I've ever done, but it does seem to all be in there. All we got to do is check for leaks. Hang on, we'll start it up and we'll see. Okay, I don't know if you could hear my cackle of glee, but that doesn't leak. So, good days. I think where I am going to go with the wiring is through this plug here. That is actually about a 3/4 inch hole behind there. The wires that go to the gauge, I think, will go through there easily. So let's print a gauge pod. There are so many of them on Thingiverse, I just didn't see the need to create one of my own. So I just grabbed one there that I liked, and I'm going to print it. I'm going to print it out of the Getek ABS-like polymer resin. This should make a pretty tough part, and I'm going to be printing it on the $99 Getek Alcade resin printer, which I tested a little bit ago. Link above or below, depending on where it shows up. And let's get this going. So we're going to print. I am going to print gauge housing, and that's what it's going to look like. And we're going to start, and away we go, and I'll bring you back when it's done. So here's the part I printed. This upper gauge pod, this cone piece here, this is the part that came off Thingiverse. And again, I'm sorry I forget the author's name. I will put a link to it below. There's probably 20 different versions of this on Thingiverse. Some of them are remixes, some of them are unique parts. I picked this one because he gave 3 different lengths of it, and he had a hole in the back for the wires, which means I don't have to drill a hole. So, but this was his bottom piece that was to mount it to something, and that's going to be nearly completely unusable for me because I'm going to put it on the steering column. So I got in Fusion 360 and I designed this piece that has the correct curvature for my steering column, and I put a piece of, you know, sticky back 1/4 inch foam on it to give it a little bit of padding so it doesn't rattle or move around too much. I also put a slot there in the side because I'm just going to put a zip tie on it to hold it to the steering column, or at least that's my plan. And here's the gauge itself, and here's how the gauge fits in, and it fits in nice and tight, and that's not going anywhere. So all I have to do is feed the wires from the back, plug them in, push that down, zip tie it to my steering wheel, and I'm ready to go. So with that being done, let's go take a look and see where I'm at with the wiring. Okay, so let's take a look and see what I got going on out here. First and foremost, I took this grommet out. I just found a grommet on the shelf and cut it and put it in there. I got my 2 wires going through there and going under the dash and coming out right here. And of course the gauge is going to go right there as well on that gauge pod. Under the dash, now they give you like 47 feet of wiring for that one wire that comes up from the O2 sensor. And if I were going to make this permanent, I probably would shorten that wire because it's way more than what I need. But I'm not sure this is going to be permanent. So I made this little bracket here. I screwed it under one of the bolts that holds the fender onto the body, and I just zip tied it there in a loop. Now the other one, the one that's going to go to power, is right here. I have switched 12 volts. Sorry about that. I have a switch 12 volts right here. So the hot wire is going to go to, which one did I say? This one right here, because this is switch 12 volts. And I'm going to use that little bracket that I just created down there as the ground. And it's going to be like that. And that should be the rest of our wiring right there. And I'll just bundle the extra up down in there with that. So let's do that now, and we'll see if this thing works. Okay, it's getting a little late in the afternoon, and I'm dying to fire this up and see if it functions. I got my switch 12 volts there. I decided to put a connector on it just in case I do decide that this isn't permanent and I want to move it to another vehicle. Everything's bundled in down there. My ground is on that little crimp-on eyelet, and I think I'm done under the hood. I'm dying to fire this thing up and see if this thing actually works. I'm excited, huh? So, key on. Heat. If you haven't seen this vehicle before, that buzzing is the fuel pump, and that little musical note is the Bluetooth adapter that I have mounted in the glove box so I can use my phone as a radio. Okay, looks like we're ready to go. We're in neutral. So this is a old Holley projection, manually adjusted fuel injection. The box is under the seat. It has a built-in fuel curve, and then it has 5 adjusters for to let you fine-tune it, and they give you a pretty wide adjustment. Right now it's up on the choke, and I'm going to do the tuning in another video. But let's just try cranking the choke one way or the other. That turned the choke all the way one way. That's all the way the other way. I live in Arizona where it's rarely below freezing, and it's in the 70s here today. So let's wait till it comes down off of the choke, and we'll see where this goes. I'm psyched. I think this is going to be fun. More fun than yanking plugs. See that green building there? I have an old classic hot rod in that it's going to be my next major project after this CJ-7. And you don't want to read spark plugs on that because it's a big motor in a little vehicle, and it takes a couple hours to change the plugs in that. And I've done it before, and it ain't no fun. So I may skip ahead here until it warms up, but it looks like we're running right around 10.8, 11 to 1 here with the choke dial down to the minimum amount of extra fuel it can give. How much is that flickering? Is that flickering a lot to you guys? It's not doesn't flicker at all to me, but I'm sure it's flickering in the camera, since that's the way this shit works. Temperature gauge is still all the way over on cold. We just dropped off of high idle, which means the choke is turned off and we're on the idle circuit. Idle circuit, we're looking at about 11.2 parts of air to 1 part of fuel. That's pretty rich, isn't it? We got some adjusting to do. Yep, I'm going to have to let it warm up and we're going to do some adjusting, and that's probably going to be another video. Anyway, seems to work really well. Thanks everybody for watching. If you're thinking about doing this and have any questions or comments, leave them below, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye for now.